I keep catching myself scrolling through someone's perfect coffee photo and thinking, who are we trying to convince, them or ourselves? Sometimes I wake up from a scroll binge with that hollow, quiet feeling like I've been acting for an audience all night. That feeling, the small, poisonous whisper that tells you you're a little fake, is what pulled me back into The Catcher in the Rye this week. Not because I wanted nostalgia, but because Holden speaks to that hollow, and he says it out loud in a way that still stings. If you've ever felt out of place in a room full of people pretending, this is for you. Tonight I want to walk you slowly through Holden's New York as if we were walking with him. Cold sidewalks, crowded restaurants, and a heart that keeps tripping over loneliness. I promise I'll keep spoilers gentle. This is less about plot and more about the small, loud symbols that carry the book's truth. Holden's journey across Manhattan is a living map of confusion, grief, and a fierce, messy longing for something real. It's a city that refuses to comfort him, and in that refusal he finds the raw edges of himself. If you feel like the world's gotten louder with fake smiles, there's something unbearably modern about Holden's solitude. Before we get into the 7 symbols that changed the way I read this book, a small favor: if you like unpacking uncomfortable truths with me, hit subscribe to Symbolism Decoded. We dig into things that make you think and feel at the same time, and I'd love for you to join this quieter corner of the internet. Let's start with the red hunting hat. Not just a goofy accessory, but Holden's way of saying, I exist like this. It's absurd and tender at once, a soft armor he wears when he's scared of being ordinary. When he puts it on, he's not trying to look cool. He's signaling to himself that he's allowed to be different. In a world that prizes polished surfaces, the hat is Holden's permission slip to be awkward and visible. If you've ever worn something slightly ridiculous to feel braver, you know what that hat stands for. Next, The Catcher in the Rye fantasy. The image of Holden catching kids before they fall off a cliff. It sounds simple, almost childlike, until you feel how desperate it is. He doesn't want to save adulthood. He wants to stop the moment when people stop being honest. This fantasy is a grief-struck refusal to accept that innocence changes, and in that refusal we see his deepest tenderness. It's not about control, it's about a fear that the world's noise will make children stop remembering who they were. The ducks in Central Park, small, recurring, strangely comforting questions. Holden asks what happens to the ducks in winter like someone asking what happens to people who don't fit anymore. It's a symbol for transience, yes, but more importantly for the terror of not being able to find your place when everything shifts. When he obsesses over the ducks, it's really anxiety disguised as a nature watch. It's the human question. When my life changes, where do I go? The Museum of Natural History is quieter and meaner than a museum should be. The exhibits never move, and Holden loves that stillness because it's predictable. He hates how people change, so he clings to a place where things stay the same. But the museum also reveals his fear that if he can't move forward, he'll be frozen in time with no story left. There's pain in wanting a world that won't grow up while simultaneously being terrified of your own next step.
Phoebe on the carousel, the scene that breaks my chest open every time.
Phoebe is not a symbol you can pin down neatly. She's light and stubborn and exact. On the carousel, she's spinning towards something joyful and true. And Holden realizes he can't catch her, not because he doesn't want to, but because some things must be allowed to rotate on their own. That moment is less about saving innocence, and more about learning to witness it without possession. It's a painful, oddly hopeful lesson in letting people be themselves. Phonies. The word Holden throws like a shield and a spear. It's easy to laugh at his rage, but listen close. He's railing against hypocrisy, not just manners. He can't stand the gap between what people say and what they are. And who among us doesn't feel that sting when a friend smiles while holding a secret? Calling someone a phony is his way of naming the dishonesty that hurts him most. Allie's baseball mitt, tender, small, and folded with poems written in green ink. It's the quietest symbol of all, a private shrine to a brother who died too young. When Holden talks about the mitt, he's not just mourning Allie's death. He's mourning a version of gentleness that the world won't allow anymore. The mitt holds a child's voice in a world that wants only adult noise. Grief in Salinger's hands becomes a sacred object, a reminder that some losses shape you like a mold. If you take these symbols together, they're not just literary tricks. They're a map of how a person tries to stay honest in a dishonest world. Holden's truth is messy, protective, sometimes self-sabotaging, always aching for reality. That ache feels urgent in 2026 because our lives are threaded with curated moments and silent comparisons. We're scrolling through other people's highlight reels while trying to remember our own small, real things. Mental health conversations are finally louder, but so is the pressure to look okay in the frame. Salinger's message, that authenticity matters even when it's painful, presses harder now than ever. I noticed this week that when I put my phone down and looked at the window instead, the world felt less staged. It was a small, stubborn moment of honesty with myself, and it felt like sitting next to Holden by the carousel, watching things turn. If you take anything from this video, let it be this. Preserving a piece of your own quiet truth is an act of resistance. If this resonated, please like and subscribe to Symbolism Decoded for more videos that don't flinch from the uncomfortable parts of great books. I love making these deep dives because they help me talk about the things I'm ashamed to admit out loud. Now I want to hear from you. What's one small thing you hold on to that reminds you you're real? Leave it in the comments and let's talk about it. Thanks for sitting with me.